I want to start with a number, $300 billion. That's the total global venture funding from Q1 2026, the first 3 months of this year. And 80% of it, $240 billion, went directly to AI. To put that in perspective, the GDP of Portugal is about $250 billion. AI absorbed more investment in 1 quarter than an entire European nation produces in a year. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you where this money is actually going, who is getting it, what it's building, and the uncomfortable question that almost nobody is asking: who benefits from all of this? Let's lay out the full picture. In Q1 2026, 4 of the 5 largest venture rounds ever recorded in history closed. OpenAI raised $122 billion in a single round. Anthropic raised $30 billion. For context, the entire global venture capital market raised about $500 billion in all of 2023. This year's Q1 alone is more than half that. The money spigot has been turned to full blast. And the big tech companies are right behind the VCs. Microsoft, Google, and Meta are projected to collectively spend over $562 billion on capital expenditures this year. Most of it on AI infrastructure, data centers, GPUs, power plants to run them. So where does $300 billion actually go? Let me break it down. First, it goes into compute. The GPUs and chips needed to train and run large AI models are the single biggest cost. NVIDIA's latest Rubin architecture, their successor to Blackwell, is going into production this year specifically to handle trillion-parameter models. Every major AI lab needs these chips. Second, it goes into talent. The engineers who can build and train frontier AI models are among the highest paid workers on Earth right now. 7-figure salaries at the top. The war for this talent is fierce. Third, it goes into data and infrastructure. One large AI data center uses as much electricity as a small city. Building them is a multi-decade infrastructure challenge. Now here is where I want to push past the headlines. When $122 billion goes into OpenAI in a single round, who actually benefits? The founders and early employees, certainly. The investors who get equity, the GPU manufacturers, the power companies, the real estate developers building data centers. But what about the hundreds of millions of people whose data was used without compensation? What about the workers whose jobs are being automated? What about the communities dealing with power shortages? This is not an anti-AI argument. These are just the questions that a $300 billion industry should be forced to answer, and largely isn't yet. Here is what the money tells us. When this much capital concentrates this fast, it accelerates development, consolidates power, and creates enormous pressure to monetize quickly. That last point matters for everyone. The AI products you're using today are running on investment capital. At some point, those investors want returns. Prices will go up. Freemium models will get tighter. The companies and individuals who build on open source alternatives now will be in a very different position than those who depend entirely on proprietary platforms. I'll leave you with this. $300 billion in 90 days is not just a big number. It is a bet that AI is the most important thing happening on Earth right now. Maybe that bet is right. Maybe it's a bubble. Most likely it's both simultaneously. But you need to understand it, because the things it's building will affect your life. My question for you: at $300 billion a quarter, do you think this is the most important investment cycle in history, or the biggest bubble you've ever seen? Subscribe for weekly analysis that goes past the hype and into what actually matters. See you next week.